My name is Claire Bennett. 10 years ago, I was driving home from work on a cold November evening in Portland, Oregon. It was almost 7:30. The rain had been falling all afternoon, and the streets were already getting dark. I was tired. All I wanted was to get home, make some dinner, and forget about the long day I'd had. Then I saw her. A little girl was sitting alone outside a small family restaurant. She looked about 8 years old. Her coat was thin. Her shoes were wet. And she was sitting beneath the restaurant's awning, staring through the window at people eating dinner. I almost drove past. I had already started turning the wheel toward home. But something made me stop. I pulled my car into the parking lot and walked toward her. "Hey, sweetheart." The little girl looked up. Her eyes were red. "Are you waiting for someone?" She nodded. "My mom." "Where is she?" The girl looked toward the street. "I don't know." I sat a few feet away from her. I didn't want to scare her. "What is your name?" "Lily." "That's a pretty name." She gave me the smallest smile. I noticed her hands were shaking. "Are you cold?" She nodded. I took off my scarf and wrapped it around her shoulders. Then I asked, "Have you eaten dinner?" She looked through the restaurant window again. "No." That one word broke my heart. I looked at the restaurant, then back at Lily. "Would you like something to eat?" Her eyes immediately filled with hope. But she hesitated. "I don't have any money." "You don't need money. I'll buy you dinner." She stared at me. "Really? Really?" I walked her inside. We sat at a small table near the window. The waitress brought us menus. Lily opened hers carefully. She looked at the prices. Then she looked at me. "I don't want anything expensive." I smiled. "Tonight you can choose whatever you want." She studied the menu for a few seconds, then quietly said, "Can I have pancakes?" I laughed. "Of course." "And hot chocolate?" "Absolutely." Her face finally changed. For the first time that evening, she looked like a normal little girl. While we waited for the food, I asked her about her school. She told me she was in 3rd grade. She liked drawing. She loved animals. And she wanted to become a veterinarian someday. Then I asked the question that made her smile disappear. "Where is your mom, Lily?" She stared down at the table. "She told me to wait here." "When?" "This afternoon." My heart sank. "She left you here this afternoon?" Lily nodded. "She said she'd come back." "Did she say when?" "No." I looked toward the restaurant entrance. No one seemed to be looking for her. I quietly asked the waitress if she'd seen Lily's mother. She shook her head. "No, ma'am." A few minutes later, Lily's pancakes arrived. She stared at them for a moment. Then she started eating. Slowly at first, then faster. It was obvious she was extremely hungry. I pretended not to notice. I didn't want to embarrass her. When she finished, she held the warm mug of hot chocolate between both hands. Then she looked at me. "Why are you being nice to me?" I didn't know what to say. So I told her the truth. "Because somebody should." She looked down, then whispered, "My mom says nobody helps you for free." I felt something was wrong. But before I could ask another question, Lily suddenly looked toward the window. Her face went pale. A dark SUV had stopped across the street. She immediately grabbed my hand. "Please don't let him see me." I looked outside. "Who?" She didn't answer. She just squeezed my hand harder. The SUV remained parked across the street. The engine was running. Then the driver's door opened. A man stepped out. He looked toward the restaurant. Lily lowered her head and whispered 4 words that I would never forget. That's my mother's boyfriend. I looked at the man standing beside the SUV. Then I looked back at Lily. Has he hurt you? She shook her head quickly. I don't know. What do you mean? My mom doesn't like him. She told me to hide if he comes. I could hear the fear in her voice. I didn't know what had happened, but I knew one thing. I couldn't leave an 8-year-old girl alone with a stranger she was afraid of. I quietly told the waitress to call the police. Then I moved my chair closer to Lily. You're staying right here with me. She nodded. The man outside looked through the restaurant window. The moment he saw Lily, he started walking toward the door. Lily squeezed my hand. Please, don't let him take me. I stood up. The restaurant suddenly felt very quiet. The man opened the door. He looked around. Then his eyes landed on Lily. There you are. Lily immediately moved behind me. I stepped between them. Who are you? He looked annoyed. I'm Daniel, Lily's mother's boyfriend. Where is her mother? He paused. She asked me to pick Lily up. Do you have identification? His expression changed. Who are you? I'm the person having dinner with this child. He stared at me. She has no business being here, Lily whispered from behind me. He's lying. Daniel heard her. His face became angry. Come here, Lily. She didn't move. I looked toward the restaurant manager. Have you called the police? He nodded. Daniel heard that. He turned around and walked outside. Within minutes, a police cruiser pulled into the parking lot. 2 officers approached Daniel. They asked him several questions. Then one officer came inside. She spoke gently to Lily. What's your name? Lily Morgan. Do you know this man? Lily nodded. He's my mom's boyfriend. Do you want to go with him? Lily immediately shook her head. No. The officer looked at me. Thank you for staying with her. Then she asked Lily where her mother was. Lily gave them an address. The officers left with Daniel. Another officer stayed behind. I thought that would be the end of it. But it wasn't. About 40 minutes later, the officer returned. He sat across from Lily. We found your mother. Lily looked up. Is she okay? The officer hesitated. She's safe, but she's at the hospital. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Is she hurt? She's being treated. Then he looked at me. Would you be willing to stay with Lily until we figure out where she can safely go? I nodded. Of course. That night, I took Lily to my home. Not because I planned to, not because I knew her, but because she needed somewhere safe. I gave her my guest room. I made another cup of hot chocolate, and I found an old stuffed bear in my closet. She held it tightly. Before falling asleep, she looked at me. Are you going to leave too? I sat beside the doorway. No, not tonight. She closed her eyes. A few minutes later, she was asleep. I went downstairs. The house was completely silent. I stood in my kitchen, thinking about how close I'd come to driving past that restaurant. Then my phone rang. It was the police officer. Claire, we need to talk. Is Lily's mother okay? She's stable. Then what's wrong? There was a long silence. Finally, the officer said something that made my stomach drop. Her mother didn't abandon Lily. She was trying to protect her. From Daniel, I looked toward the stairs. Protect her from what? The officer lowered his voice. We found something in Daniel's apartment, and we think Lily may know more than she realizes. I looked at the little girl's bedroom door. Then the officer said, "Claire, whatever you do, don't let anyone come near that child tonight." The officer's words stayed in my mind all night. Don't let anyone come near that child. I locked the front door, checked the windows. Then I walked upstairs. Lily was still asleep. She looked peaceful. For the first time since I'd met her, she wasn't afraid. I quietly closed her bedroom door. The next morning, there was a knock at my door. I froze. It was barely 7. I looked through the peephole. The same police officer was standing outside. I opened the door. "Is everything okay?" He nodded. "We need to move Lily somewhere safer." "Why?" He looked toward the stairs. "Because Daniel was released." My heart sank. Released? We don't have enough evidence to hold him. I couldn't believe it. What about Lily's mother? She's still in the hospital. Then where can Lily go? The officer took a deep breath. Her mother has a sister in Arizona. She's on her way here. I felt relieved. Good. But the officer didn't smile. There's a problem. What kind of problem? We can't confirm that the sister is actually who she says she is. I stared at him. Are you telling me someone may come here pretending to be Lily's family? We don't know. But until we know, we have to be careful. Just then, I heard footsteps upstairs. Lily appeared at the top of the stairs. She was holding the stuffed bear. Is my mom coming? I walked toward her. She's still at the hospital. When can I see her? Soon. The officer looked at Lily. Do you remember anything about last night? She shook her head. Then she suddenly looked at me. Can I tell you something? Of course. She came downstairs. I saw my mom put something in your car. I stared at her. What? Before she left me at the restaurant. She told me, if anything happened, I should give it to the woman who helped me. My heart started racing. What did she put in my car? Lily pointed toward the garage. The little box. I walked into the garage. My car was parked exactly where I'd left it. I opened the driver's door. Nothing looked unusual. Then I noticed something underneath the passenger seat. A small black box. I pulled it out. It was locked. I looked at the officer. He immediately became serious. Don't open it. Why? We'll have it examined. Lily stood behind me. That's Mom's. The officer carefully placed the box into a sealed evidence bag. Then he looked at me. Claire, I need you to understand something. What? This may be the reason Daniel was looking for Lily. A few hours later, the police called. They had opened the box. Inside, there was a flash drive, a photograph, and several documents. The officer came to my house again. He placed the photograph on my kitchen table. It showed Lily's mother standing outside a warehouse. Beside her was Daniel. But that wasn't what shocked me. In the background was another person, an older man. The officer pointed at him. Do you recognize this man? I shook my head. No. We believe he's the person who has been paying Daniel. Paying him for what? The officer looked at the documents. We're still investigating. Then he turned the photograph over. Something was written on the back. A date. And one sentence. I read it twice. Keep Lily safe until she turns 18. I looked upstairs. Lily was sitting on the edge of her bed, completely unaware that the small dinner I had bought her the night before had just pulled me into a secret far bigger than I could have imagined. The next morning, I woke up before sunrise. For a few seconds, I forgot everything that had happened. Then I remembered Lily. I went upstairs. She was already awake. She was sitting by the window, holding the stuffed bear against her chest. When she saw me, she smiled. "Good morning, Claire." "Good morning. Did you sleep?" She nodded. "Better than I have in a long time." That sentence stayed with me. A child shouldn't have to say something like that. I made breakfast. Pancakes, scrambled eggs, and orange juice. Lily smiled when she saw the plate. "Is this all for me?" I laughed. "You're growing. You need a big breakfast." She started eating. Then she suddenly stopped. "Claire." "Yes. Can I ask you something?" "Anything. Why did you help me?" I looked at her. "Because you needed someone." She thought about that, then smiled. I think that's what my mom would say. A few minutes later, there was another knock at the door. This time, it was a woman. She looked to be in her 40s. She was holding a small suitcase. "Are you Claire Bennett?" "Yes. My name is Susan Morgan. I'm Lily's aunt." I looked at Lily. Her face brightened. "Aunt Susan." Susan immediately hugged her. For the first time, I saw Lily completely relax. The police officer arrived a few minutes later. He checked Susan's identification. Everything matched. She really was Lily's aunt. But before she could leave with Lily, the officer received a phone call. His expression changed. He stepped outside. When he came back, he looked at Susan, then at me. "We have a problem." Susan's smile disappeared. "What happened?" "Daniel was arrested again." "That's good, isn't it?" "Yes, but he gave us a name." The officer looked toward Lily. "He says the person behind everything is someone very close to Lily's family." Susan became pale. "Who?" The officer didn't answer immediately. Then he looked at the documents from the black box. "We believe Lily's father may still be alive." Lily looked confused. "My dad." Nobody spoke. She looked at Susan. "Mom said he was dead." Susan closed her eyes. "Your mother believed that." The officer continued. "We've found financial records, travel records, and evidence that someone has been secretly sending money to Lily's mother for years." I felt a chill run through me. Why would someone do that? The officer looked at the flash drive. "We don't know yet." Then he handed me a photograph. It showed a man standing outside an office building. I stared at the picture. There was something familiar about him. Not his face. His jacket. A dark blue jacket with a small silver symbol on the sleeve. I suddenly remembered something. The man from the restaurant. Daniel had been wearing the same symbol. I looked at the officer. "That's not a coincidence." He nodded. "That's what we're afraid of." Susan held Lily's hand. "She needs to come with me." The officer agreed. But before Lily walked out, she turned around. She ran back to me, then hugged me tightly. "Thank you for buying my dinner." I smiled. "You're welcome." She pulled away, then whispered, "Don't forget me." I felt tears in my eyes. "I won't." She walked away with Susan. I stood in the doorway, watching them disappear down the street. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. 3 days later, someone knocked on my door. I looked through the window. No police officer. No Susan. No Lily. It was a man in a gray suit. He was holding a small envelope. He looked directly at my camera, then at the door, and said, "Claire Bennett, I know you helped Lily." I need to talk to you. Then he added something that made my heart stop. Because Lily's mother left something for you, and it may be the reason someone is willing to do anything to find you. The man in the gray suit stood quietly on my porch. I didn't open the door. Who are you? My name is Michael Reed. How do you know Lily's mother? He looked toward the street. Because she trusted me with something very important. What? He held up the envelope. She asked me to give this to you if she ever disappeared. My heart started beating faster. How did you get it? She mailed it to my office 6 months ago. She told me to wait until Lily was safe. I looked at the envelope. My name was written across it. I finally opened the door. Michael stepped inside. He placed the envelope on my kitchen table. Inside was a handwritten letter. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Lily's mother. The letter began with 3 words. Dear Claire. I slowly started reading. If you're reading this, then my daughter is safe. And that is all I ever wanted. I swallowed hard. My daughter doesn't know the truth about her father. I wanted to tell her, but every time I tried, someone found us. I looked up at Michael. Who? He shook his head. Keep reading. The letter continued. 10 years ago, I discovered that Lily's father had been involved in something terrible. He was using fake charities, fake bank accounts, and stolen identities. My hands became cold. I found evidence. I was going to report him, but he found out. I continued reading. That's when I ran. I took Lily and disappeared. But he never stopped looking. I looked at Michael. Then why did she leave Lily at the restaurant? His voice was quiet. Because she knew she was being followed. I looked back at the letter. My car was being watched. My phone was being tracked. I knew I wouldn't be able to protect Lily much longer. That night, I saw you outside the restaurant. I watched you walk toward my daughter. I knew you were a stranger, but I also knew you were the only person I could trust. I stopped reading. My eyes filled with tears. She had been watching me that night. The letter continued. I left Lily there because I needed to lead them away from her. I never intended to abandon my daughter. I intended to come back. But I was caught. I looked at Michael. Is she alive? He nodded. She's alive. I could barely breathe. Where is she? We're trying to find her. I looked down at the letter again. There was one final paragraph. If Lily ever finds you again, please tell her this. Her mother never left because she stopped loving her. She left because she loved her enough to disappear. I covered my mouth. Michael quietly said, Claire, there's one more thing. He opened his briefcase. Inside was a photograph. It showed Lily standing outside a school. Beside her was Susan. And behind them was a black SUV. The same SUV from the restaurant. Michael pointed to it. We believe someone has been watching Lily. My heart sank. But Lily is with her aunt. Yes. Then she's not safe. He shook his head. Not yet. Just then, my phone rang. The number was unknown. I answered. Nobody spoke. Then I heard a little girl's voice. Claire! I froze. Lily! Her voice was trembling. I need you. Then the call suddenly ended. I looked at Michael. He was already reaching for his phone. That call came from Lily's school. I stood up. Then we have to go. Michael shook his head. No. We have to be smarter than that. He pointed toward my front window. Across the street, a black SUV was parked. The engine was running. and someone was sitting inside. Michael pulled the curtains closed. "Stay away from the windows." I could hear the seriousness in his voice. "What do we do?" "Nothing. We wait." "For what?" "For the police." He called them immediately. Within minutes, 2 unmarked cars stopped several houses away. The black SUV across the street suddenly drove away. One officer followed it. Another came to my house. He listened carefully as Michael explained everything. Then he looked at me. "Claire, you did the right thing by calling us. Is Lily safe?" "We're checking on her now." A few minutes later, the officer's phone rang. He listened, then smiled. "She's safe." I almost collapsed with relief. "What happened?" That phone call wasn't from Lily. It was a recording. I stared at him. Someone wanted us to believe she was in danger. Michael nodded. They wanted Claire to leave the house. The officer looked at him. Exactly. My stomach turned. They wanted me to follow them. Yes. Why? The officer placed a folder on my kitchen table. "We found the person behind the operation." I looked at the folder. "Who is it?" The officer opened it. Inside was a photograph. It was Lily's father. But there was something strange. The name under the photograph wasn't the name Lily knew. It was an alias. He had been living under a different identity for years. The officer explained. He wasn't looking for Lily because he wanted custody. He wanted the evidence her mother had collected, and he believed Lily knew where it was. I remembered the little black box. The flash drive. The officer nodded. That flash drive contains financial records. Enough to expose everything. So that's why they followed Lily. Yes. I thought about that little girl sitting alone outside the restaurant. She had no idea how dangerous her situation really was. I looked at Michael. What happens now? We protect Lily, and we find her mother. 2 days later, we received the news we'd been waiting for. Lily's mother had been found. She was alive. She had been hiding in another state while working with federal investigators. And she wanted to see her daughter. When Lily finally saw her mother, she ran into her arms. They held each other for a long time. I stood several feet away, trying not to cry. Then Lily looked over. She smiled and pointed at me. That's Claire. Her mother looked at me. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Then she walked toward me. I've wanted to thank you for 10 years. I smiled. You don't have to. She shook her head. Yes, I do. You bought my daughter dinner. But you gave her something much more important. You gave her a night where she felt safe. She took my hands. I'll never forget that. Months passed. The investigation eventually led to several arrests. Lily's mother rebuilt her life. Susan remained close to them. And Lily, she kept visiting me. Every few months, she would bring drawings, books, sometimes cookies she'd baked with her mother. Then one afternoon, nearly 10 years after the night we first met, someone knocked on my door. I opened it. Lily was standing there. But she wasn't the little 8-year-old girl I remembered. She was 18 now. She smiled. I told you I'd come back. I laughed. I remember. She held out a small paper bag. I brought you something. Inside was a framed photograph. It was the picture from that first night. Me, sitting across from her at the restaurant. Plate of pancakes between us. I stared at it. You kept this? She smiled. Of course. Then she handed me a second photograph. It showed a new building. A bright family center. The entrance was a sign. The Lily Morgan Family Center. I looked at her. What is this? She smiled. I'm starting a program that provides free meals to children whose families are struggling. I couldn't believe it. Why? She looked at me. Because 10 years ago, someone bought dinner for a hungry little girl. And that little girl never forgot what it felt like to have someone care. She hugged me, then whispered, I want to do the same for someone else. I closed my eyes. That night, I had spent less than $20. I thought I was buying a child dinner. I never realized I was helping create a future. And sometimes, that's all kindness needs. One person willing to stop, one person willing to care, and one small meal that tells someone, you matter. 10 years ago, I bought a hungry little girl dinner. 10 years later, she knocked on my door, not because she needed help anymore, but because she wanted to give hope to someone else. And that was the greatest thank you I could have ever received.